I don't even know where to begin with this. It's so beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna have to start shooting. Hey everybody, Adam Savage, and I am at the Metropolitan Museum of Art with Matthew here, and we're looking at one of the most beautiful objects I have ever seen.
It's pretty amazing.
Tell me what this is.
So this is called the Crown of the Andes. It was created in the 17th century, and it was made to adorn a sculpture of the Virgin Mary. The bottom part is from the 17th century, and the arches were made a little bit later in the 18th century. I don't know if they were, I've been told they might have been recreated to change with the styles.
And this is solid gold.
This is solid gold, over 5 pounds.
5 pounds?
Of gold, and more than 400 emeralds.
And these emeralds are special.
These are very special emeralds. These are colonial Colombian emeralds, and I've been told they're perfect.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so the first thing I'm thinking is if this is 5 pounds of gold, this is a very delicate thing to make out of gold. Gold's heavy.
Gold is very heavy, yes.
So talk to me about, you built them out for this. You designed and built them out for this. Talk to me about the complexity of making a mount for something this large and delicate.
Well, when the crown came to the Met, from being used over centuries,
right?
So the arches had been broken.
Wow. And
they had been put back together with little mending plates with rivets. I don't know if you can see some of them in there. And one of the worst arches had been completely broken. It had 3 little mending plates that had been riveted on.
Oh my goodness.
And 2 of those mending plates had been completely snapped. So it was only being held together by one little mending plate. And all of the arches had been deformed somewhat, and it was just completely structurally not sound anymore. And any kind of movement just made it shake like jello.
I would imagine your first discussion then would be, what should its final form take?
Yes.
Because it's not in a shape you feel like displaying it in.
Right.
You had to decide what its actual profile.
Yes, so that was the conservator did this, Linda Borsch. So one of the arches was a little bit more nicely formed, and they decided, well, let's use that as the reference for the others. So Linda went in and mended all of the breaks. She used an epoxy that was strengthened with carbon fiber.
Okay.
And she went back in and rebent the arms back into shape based off that one arch that was still in nice condition.
That had to have been terrifying.
I can't imagine. I mean, it's just many hours of work. And
careful.
Super careful work, and she did just an amazing job.
Now, it looks like your mount is doing a huge amount of work holding this thing up.
Yes, it is just, yes, it's helping because of this ball on top and all the emeralds. There's so much weight pulling the arches in and down. So the arms are what supports that. And part of the aspects of making the mount were how to get the arms to go up in and around the emeralds.
Oh, I see. Right, because you have to wind your way around.
Yes.
And still provide structure.
So one idea was I could either go to one side of the emeralds.
Right.
When you do that, you end up, it's a little bit of imbalance.
Oh, you mean if you went up like the left side of all the emeralds or the right side, you've supported the main thing on too much of one side.
Too much of one side, and it might want to torque a bit.
Yeah.
So I decided to weave in and out, and that creates a wider contact area that adds a little bit more support.
Some of this I've heard little inklings of, but like you can't, when you're designing a piece of brass to wind around all these emeralds, it's not like you can have this crown on your desk and make a drawing. Is it?
Well, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So I had this on my desk for a while.
Oh my God, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, this is terrifying. So it had to go back into a safe every night.
Of course. But are you sitting there like carefully making a drawing and then bending a piece and holding it up and seeing if you get close and then coming back?
Yes.
Oh my goodness gracious. And it also looks like there's a ton of post shaping of your structure to better integrate it into
Yes.
the inside.
Yes. So there's a lot of, yeah. I mean, it needs to be as supportive as possible, but also, disappear as much as possible. So it's just trying to match all those little nooks and crannies.
Okay, but I'm also seeing these little baby clevis joints on the bottom. So this thing comes into the crown and folds out to hold it?
I was trying to figure out how to get these inside.
Right.
Without, you have to wind around the emeralds.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think of it, the analogy sometimes of if you're putting a shelf into a closet and if you can slide it in from the front,
yes,
it's easy. But if you can't slide it in from the front,
oh right, you
can try to tilt it in,
yes,
it binds up. Yes. So I decided it's going to need a little bit of room on the bottom in order to reduce the length of the arm.
Okay.
So that actually unscrews and swivels up. So it provides me about a 1/2 inch more room in order to get in and fish these in.
Oh my goodness.
And
so you're not only designing how to hold this up, but also how to get it to the place where it's holding it up.
Yes.
You have to actually, the mechanical design you're doing is both installation and completion.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Great.
And one of the, I think, interesting aspects is how the arms attach together at the top.
Yeah.
And I tried to, originally I thought about whether I should have screws attaching those, but I figured, if I had to have screws,
Yeah.
I would need 2 screws per arm to keep it from twisting.
And I see one center screw.
One center screw. So there's only one little spot under there that's not adorned. So it's this one circle. So I decided to make, each arm has a little thin disc that is 1/4 of the thickness of the arm.
Yeah.
And they overlap and they're staggered. So they're 4 discs, and then when they stack together, they make the same thickness as the arm. But also, because there's only that one screw, I didn't want the screw to get bound.
Sure.
With the plates pushing or pulling.
Right.
So there's actually a little bit of a shelf from where the disc attaches to the arm. So when the plates come together, that little bit of shoulder locks in like this.
To provide a little extra support.
To provide support in this direction and on the sides. And
that takes care of what you were hoping to do with 2 screws per arm.
Yes. So that keeps them from, the binding, the shifting not happening on the screw. And then I was worried about, because it only has this one center point, are those arms going to want to twist? So the first plate I put on, I put a little pin, and then that pin has holes in each arm that register into that pin to keep it from twisting. So that, and then we over drilled the center hole for the screw.
Right.
And it just slides in and out. It doesn't bind. So, which was something I was worried about. But yes.
And so I'm looking at these screws you have in the center here, holding, it looks like the arm of the crown into the structure. And I really appreciate, it looks like you have, made the screw somewhat decorative into a cross.
Those are original.
Those are original.
Those are original.
Oh my gosh. So you're just making a circle around that.
Yes.
To allow it to be seen.
Yes.
Oh, now I understand.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm curious if, as a craftsperson who's an engineer, works with precious materials, and you spend a lot of time with this, if you have an impression of the person or the people, the artisans that put this together.
Yes, it's incredible. Yeah.
You get a sense of them over time.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Oh, yes. I mean, it's one of the greatest parts of our job is getting to see these amazing masterpieces. The greatest things ever made, basically, art objects.
And you get a sense of the hammer blows and the individual pieces. Do you find maker's marks or little idiosyncrasies?
I didn't with this, but yeah, I mean it is incredible. As Fred said, sometimes we just get so involved.
The object itself sort of falls away.
In the process of building something that, yeah.
Dude, it's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.